Hola a todos, muy buenas tardes, espero que todos se encuentren bien. Y aquí estamos para nuestra última sección de vocabulario del semestre. Qué rápido ha pasado el tiempo, ¿verdad? Ya 3 semanas en línea y estamos sobreviviendo, eso al menos espero. So hope everybody's doing okay. We're almost done. We're starting part 2, so the second half of our last chapter of the semester. So the end is definitely in sight. So I hope that provides some degree of comfort to us, at least in terms of academics. So you probably noticed that I skipped the perfiles section, which is what we've got right prior to this, because it would be incredibly boring for me to just read this to you without any element of discussion. I mean, that'd be lame even by my standards. But you will have an MSL exercise on it, so you will read it. Then just be sure to take a good look at it, just because that material is fair game for the culture section of the final exam. The one other thing I wanted to briefly touch on, just while I've got the textbook open, before we start with the vocab here, just so I don't forget about it at the end of the video. We've got another letras y sonidos section, so pronunciation section. And if we remember back to chapter 7, what seems like a year ago, when we were still doing it in class, we talked about the hard G sound, the G, right? So gastar, gota, guna, etc. So we remember that we looked at this vowel chart and we established that our back vowels, so these are further back in the mouth, take that hard G sound, that G sound. And really now we're just looking at the other end. So here we've got I and E, our front vowels in Spanish. So we can see when we have a letter like a G, we talked about the G, we don't have, for example, generoso. And then the J sound, like in the English, generous, that really doesn't exist in Spanish. It exists in certain dialects, but not in this usage. It would be something else, so don't worry about that. So we would never say generoso. It really is very similar to an H sound, except we're actually creating with friction towards the back of our mouth on that it's a alveolar. So it's a so generoso, gimnasio, Mexico, Javier. Be careful though, because the X can trip us up a little bit. So the X could also, so Mexico is a bit of a unique word, because we could also have a word like one letter difference. So how do we pronounce that? Do we think Lexico? Nope, lexico. So Mexico is actually a bit of an exception. Typically when we have an X followed by an I, we will actually use the sound. In the case of Mexico, that's actually just for historical reasons, because the name Mexico comes from the Aztec name for their people, which were the Mexica. So it went from Mexica, and then over the course of time, it went to, I should have left this open, it went to the sound. But it comes from the Aztec word Mexica, which was their word for their people. And that's actually why, and this is pretty unique to Spain, you will actually see Mexico spelled that way. And that is considered correct as well. But I wouldn't use it outside of Spain. Particularly Mexicans aren't a fan of it. So I would stick with the X. But just wanted to touch on that. And then we can see the J. I don't want to say that. The J is really always going to be that sound. Doesn't matter if it's at the beginning of a word, in the middle, or at the end, and it doesn't matter which vowel. So we've got joya, traje, reloj. Doesn't matter. J is going to be the same sound. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. You'll have a few MSL exercises on that as well. So now let's get into our topic for today. Entonces tenemos las tiendas y productos personales. Entonces seguimos con el tema de las compras. Y tenemos una presentación especial porque es una presentación de PowerPoint de mi amiga María. Y mi amiga María es mucho mejor con PowerPoint que yo. Entonces espero que lo disfruten. Entonces, primero, ¿qué tipos de productos encontramos nosotros en la farmacia o en la perfumería? Tenemos el cepillo de dientes. Tenemos la pasta de dientes. Tenemos el talco, que es un polvo, a powder, típicamente. Tenemos el desodorante. Tenemos el perfume. Y tenemos la colonia. One thing I want to mention is just that you may encounter some variation on this. So I remember when I was in Mexico, I was actually confused initially because how would we typically contrast perfume and cologne? So I know this is a bit going into gender stereotypes, but just for the purpose of simplification, typically perfume is worn more by women, cologne more by men. However, in Mexico, they actually don't make this distinction. Entonces, en México, esto es perfume y esto es perfume. So in a place like Mexico, the word perfume has a much broader meaning. I remember my host father and I one time, I don't remember why, but we were talking about propane gas, like propane for like a grill or a dryer. And he was talking about the odorant, I believe is the word we use, that kind of rotten egg smell, so we can identify a combustible gas. That's actually an add-on. The gas itself is odorless. They add that in, so we smell it and we notice it if it's leaking. And when he was talking about that odorant, even, he called that perfume. So perfume in some places, like Mexico, for example, has a much broader meaning than perfume does in English. Luego, ¿qué encontramos en la joyería? Jewelry store. Tenemos el anillo, los aretes, la cadena, el collar. Ahora, ¿cuál es la diferencia entre una cadena y un collar? Entonces, una cadena es de metal. Una cadena siempre es de metal. Por otro lado, un collar a veces no es de metal. Luego tenemos la pulsera o el reloj de pulsera. Personally, I have only heard the term reloj de pulsera in this textbook. Typically, we just say reloj, unless we were trying to really clarify. Like, say there were 3 clocks in a room, no, este reloj de pulsera, mi reloj de pulsera, and then maybe, but typically we're just going to say reloj, regardless of whether it's a watch or a clock. Typically, we're going to use the same words in most contexts, unless, again, clarification or emphasis are the main times that we give extra information. Ahora, algunas descripciones. ¿Qué tenemos aquí? Tenemos un anillo de diamantes. Un anillo de diamantes. Luego, ¿qué tenemos aquí? Tenemos una cadena de oro. De oro. Un metal precioso. Una cadena de oro. O, ¿cómo se llaman? Unos aretes. Y estos aretes son de perlas. O aquí, ¿cómo se llama esto? Una pulsera. Y esta pulsera es una pulsera de plata. Entonces, nuestros dos metales preciosos más comunes son el oro y la plata. Luego, ¿cómo se llaman algunas otras tiendas que encontramos en el mundo? Tenemos, por ejemplo, la florería. Vamos a ver, we're going to see some variation, really. Either one of these would be comprehended, be understood. It just kind of will depend on what part of the Spanish-speaking world you are in. One may be more common with another, but they're both absolutely valid. Tenemos la florería o la floristería. Tenemos la heladería o la nevería o la paletería, donde compramos helado. Tenemos la zapatería o tenemos la papelería. Do we notice kind of a common, anything these words have in common? If we notice, they all have the same ending. Hería, 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 hería. Typically, store names end in hería. Not always, but very frequently. So when we see hería at the end of a word, very commonly when it's a noun, it's referring to a store. So basically, you have the product, and then that derivational suffix that makes it that expresses that it's not the object itself, but a store that sells it. Luego, unos verbos. Tenemos devolver. Entonces, tenemos el o la cliente. Y luego el o la dependiente. Entonces, si compro un producto, pero resulta que a mí no me gusta este producto, yo puedo devolver el producto a la tienda. O gastar. Entonces, si yo quiero comprar algo, es necesario gastar dinero. Luego, hacer juego o no hacer juego, que es una expresión que realmente se refiere a la combinación. Entonces, si dos prendas de ropa hacen juego, quiere decir que son una buena combinación. Entonces aquí las camisas no hacen juego con las corbatas, por ejemplo. Luego, la presentación de María es de la versión anterior del libro. It's from the 6th edition. We're now in the 7th edition, so I don't have her skills to put more than one thing in a slide. So here are some words that are new to this edition. Tenemos la crema hidratante. La verdad, yo no sé qué es eso ni en español ni en inglés. Like moisture cream, I don't know. Los pendientes. Otro tipo de aretes. I think pendientes dangle. I don't know the word in English. No llevo aretes. Ahora, con la tecnología tenemos el reloj inteligente, como el Fitbit o el Apple Watch, el reloj inteligente. O la carnicería, donde nosotros podemos comprar carne. O la panadería, donde podemos comprar pan. O la pastelería, donde podemos comprar pasteles y otros tipos de pan dulce, like a bakery for sweet goods. O la quesería, donde se vende queso. Compramos queso en la quesería. Terminamos con unas preguntas, simplemente para repasar un poquito. So I'll go through these kind of fast just because the longer the video, the longer it takes to upload and process and all that stuff. So feel free to pause it if it takes you a little bit longer to come up with the answer. Entonces, a ver, ¿es común comprar helado en una florería? No. Compramos flores en una florería y compramos helado en una heladería. Luego, ¿es común comprar un cepillo de dientes de diamantes? No. Quizás si eres Bill Gates y tienes mucho dinero y eres muy rico, pero no, normalmente no. Es un poco excesivo. Luego, ¿es común devolver un regalo que te gusta? No, si te gusta, no lo vas a devolver. ¿Es común comprar una cadena de plata? Yo creo que sí. Luego, ¿es común comprar un reloj de perlas? Mi reloj no tiene perlas. Quizás si compras un Rolex, pero no es muy común. ¿Es común comprar talco en una farmacia? Sí, yo creo que sí. ¿Es común comprar una pulsera de oro en una joyería? Sí, es un lugar lógico para comprar una pulsera. Y finalmente, es común gastar más dinero en una colonia que en un perfume. Y la verdad es que yo no tengo la menor idea. I have never bought either. I have absolutely no idea. Food for thought. Just, if you know, send me an email, because I don't. Okay, so that's it for today's lesson. So this is, again, the last vocab section that we've got this semester. So we're getting close. Tomorrow will probably be our last really, truly difficult and complex topic of the semester. So a couple weeks ago we looked at the difference between, or last week I think it was, they're blending together at this point, we looked at the new imperfect tense, which is another past tense. So tomorrow we're going to talk about the differences between the preterite and the imperfect, the two past tenses that we learned, because they're not interchangeable. So that's what we've got for, that's what we'll be looking at tomorrow. The homework is already up on Carmen. If you have any questions, again, feel free to post them on the course discussion board, then everybody can see them. So thank you for watching. Gracias por ver y hasta pronto.